Usually the stage where we get to the point of, hey, what's happening in your world? What's happening with our projects? And of course, opinion only, I don't know anything. I'm just going to tell you the way that I see it, up to you to sort of take on board whatever you feel is appropriate. What, you can't hear me? Down the back, everyone can hear me? Yeah? Oh, now you can, okay, so I'll go closer to my face. I'm just taking on the last session and where the world is going, and there seems to be a hell of a lot of uncertainty. The one thing that my experience tells me that I'm certain about, listen to it or not, is totally up to you. Every time there is uncertainty, every time the world is sort of looking at the markets crashing and we're going into recession, etc., 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 land and houses always go up. Now, you heard an expert tell you, supply, demand, we cannot keep up. There is talk about interest rate drops. The people that I speak to, I was speaking to someone who had a discussion with someone at the NAB, the senior at the NAB, they're talking 2, 3, 4 possible rate drops. Expecting one on the 20th. What date is it today? I already got told we got a date right on the front. It was 17th, today's the 18th.
Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Now, when the rates drop, what do you think is going to happen for people sitting on the fence? Yeah? Now that's something I'm certain of. I'll leave it up to you to make your own decisions. We'll give you enough information to make an informed decision. I've been watching the general residential market. Most of you that know me know that I live in this area. I live in Doncaster. The clearance rates are above 70%. Most properties are going above reserve. Time on market is probably averaging about 35 days. What does that tell you in the established markets? Think about the area you live in. Are there properties sitting, can't sell? My daughter's, I'm going to be a granddad again. So she had her first child 2 years ago. She's pregnant. She's due for another one in August this year. They've decided that they're going to get a larger property. And for them, it suits. They're going to rent their property out and rent another larger property. I went to an open for inspection last week for rental. Guess how many people turned up in 15 minutes? 40. Guess how many applications the agent is telling me they have? And as much pull as I'm trying to assist her, you know, it's a company where my first PA is a director of. It's hard, guys, for people to get housing. We spoke about population growth, 400 and something thousand migrants. Most of them who are coming to the country have enough money, they want to buy a home. Do we agree? Most of them are going to the growth areas of Melbourne, where our developments are. Up until now, why do you think they haven't bought? Who wants to tell me? Have a guess.
Fear.
Sorry?
Fear.
Fear. It's also that mentality of, oh, everyone's saying that the market is dropping, I'll wait till the right time. Right? The market is on the lift. Anyone in general residential real estate, I speak to a lot of them every week, they're telling you the market is moving. Terry Portelli, Managing Director of Red 23, who handles all project sales all around Melbourne. What's happened in the inquiry rates over the last month?
I think we've seen a significant increase in inquiry, but the change that we've seen and a noticeable change is the volume of sales. I think we've probably increased our volumes by anywhere between 30 and 40%.
Volume of inquiry, volume of sales up by 30 or 40%, and it hasn't even started yet. Can I give you a piece of advice, guys? Those of you who are sitting on the fence, get off the fence. Decide to do something. Either decide to take advantage of it, or decide that you're going to miss the boat, because it's starting to happen. That's the good news. Over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, post-COVID, it's been nothing but bad news in the property sector. However, you would have heard Andrew talk about opportunities, taking advantage of opportunities. Our investor group will also realise that during those times, in those opportunities, we've been looking at projects, land, that have got latent value that we know we can increase the value. The struggles have been timing, Melbourne Water, etc., and Patrick will talk a little bit more about that. But what's really important to understand is that if you're able to take advantage and do what the 20% that Dul was talking about are doing now, do you think the 20% are sitting on their hands? No matter what space you're in, just like Andrew was saying before, equities are down, they buy, etc., etc. I can only talk about something that I understand and I know. I understand and I know property. I understand and I know land. Those of you who have the time to sit with us, and we can tell you what we're doing. Again, you're the CEO of your life. You choose what to do. But please don't make the mistake of doing nothing, or more importantly, acting out of fear. There is enough negativity out there in the marketplace at the moment to cause people to act out of fear. Knowledge is power. We will do everything we can to give you the knowledge. It's up to you to actually take action. And the most important thing about our community, because really, I want to make it clear, you guys are the foundation of every single thing that we do. Our role, our job, is to help you make an informed decision on your next move. And then when we decide to do something as a community, we all benefit together. The analogies I keep using, people get sick of, but they're true. You've all seen the plane. Those of you here for the first time, what is the plane? Journey of life. Everybody wants financial freedom, financial independence. Yes or no? Put your hand up if you want financial independence and financial freedom. Everyone in the room. Now it's a journey. There's a destination that we all want to get to. What we've uncovered is a way of us doing it all together. And together, we reap the benefits. We're all on this plane. Now at the moment, I'll introduce you to Patrick shortly and his project management team, etc. They're the engineers. They're the pilots. We've got people around. Me and my team, we serve you the drinks. All right? We make sure that you're clear about where you're going. But along the way, there's going to be turbulence. There's going to be turbulence, guys. There are times you end up landing out in some other airport that you didn't even plan to go to because you don't want to go through a cyclone. But eventually at some point, when the eye is on that end destination, it's party time. And the one thing that I've learned in my 60 years is I know how to party. When we all get there safely and we all enjoy the reaps of the pain, it's a good feeling. But you're going to have pain. Why don't I have a six-pack? I can't handle the pain, guys. I can't handle the getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I can't handle the stuff that goes with it. So there is pain to everything. And we've just got to deal with that. And as a community, we can. Keep the faith, keep your eyes on the prize, and make sure that you use the experts around you to make informed decisions. Like I said, I'm not giving anyone advice, but when you look at land, when you look at property, and you know where it's going to go, you can pretty much determine your own fate, can't you? So that's really the most important thing that I wanted to remind everybody. The next one to remind everybody is, you're all sick of my bamboo analogy. Right? And I wasn't going to play the video, but I'm going to paraphrase. Someone plants some seeds, mate, and it takes 5 years for this thing to start going up. During that time, every naysayer is going to say, what are you doing? Why isn't it happening? What's going on? And some of you who have been with us for a while expected to see your bamboo come out in 5 years' time. It might take 8. And if it ends up taking 8 or 9, but it actually goes further and higher and forms the foundation of your building. In the Asian countries, what do they actually use for scaffolding? Bamboo. It's a bloody strong thing. But you've got to be patient. Someone's got to take care of it. And our team has been doing that along the way. There have been times with some of our events, because we've got so many projects to talk about, it might be 2 minutes each. Doesn't stop you from coming in and finding out what the hell is Patrick and his team doing. What is everyone doing to make sure my investment is going to come out the way that you wanted it and said it was going to happen? But the most important thing to understand is we are only here because of this community. And what I will also tell you, in the tough times, when decisions need to be made, do we slow something down? Do we shelve it? Do we do it? Do we not do it? There are some projects, which we'll go through shortly, have been sitting there shelved for a period of time. And some of you have been saying, why? Well, it might not make economic sense to go and build that product that we put together pre-COVID, and it's not going to suit post-COVID. So we've got to find another solution. But we're always daily, day in, day out, looking for those solutions. But I firmly believe, my belief, there ain't no safer commodity than land. And we're starting with land that we know that we can double or triple its value by commercialising it and find out the right idea. It makes sense. But there are plenty of times, guys, that you don't see what's happening immediately. And in this world of instant gratification, I put up a post, how many people liked it? Or I'm just going to go and buy that property today around the corner from where I live because I can see it, smell it, feel it, touch it. And then you end up doing the sums 2 years later and you may be getting 3% gross, 1% net, hasn't gone up in value because you've bought a small apartment. It's not about instant gratification, it's the end result that you're looking for. I'm going to keep reminding everybody about that. Okay? What have we done during this process is we've done significant things, but I think what I'm going to start with Patrick first of all is bring Patrick up. Patrick, as you know, he's the big boss. He's responsible for delivery of projects. Felicity's got a, maybe this side, Patrick, and then we don't have to walk so much and Flick gets it all in on the camera. But Patrick is the leader of our delivery team. Now, one thing, those of you who have been coming to our events for a long, long time will realise this team has been beefed up significantly in the last 12 to 24 months. Why? Because delivery is the most important thing now. And I'll let you talk about the experts that you put in place, Patrick, but I think it's really well worth noting because, you know, when you spend the time, effort, energy, and I don't mind saying money, to get the team right, the rest will come. Patrick?
Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everyone. We've been fortunate enough over the last year, I think it's been almost a year, to get Anthony Creverton, who is here today somewhere.
Second row there.
Anthony, yeah. Anthony's a project manager whom I've known for maybe 25 years. We worked together in the past. He's been highly successful, been the director of some of the major projects, including the last one with Deloitte. Set up many project management companies, and we were fortunate enough to have got him. Through circumstances, which I don't want to go into detail, but you know, he's joined the team, and he believes in what we are doing. And similarly, Adela as well, who's running a half marathon this morning. She's not here, obviously, and fortunate, a really top operator, development manager. So we've augmented our team quite well. But before I start, I mean, you guys know I've been in the industry a long time. You know, I've probably operated over 37 years. I know how this industry works, and the last 3 years have been one of the toughest from a development point of view. Now, before I say any more, I'll just say, like Andrew and Michael, I don't know anything. So it's only personal opinion. And I don't want to bang on because, I mean, those of you who've been here and listened to the technical aspect of our projects know how difficult it has been. Difficult in terms of construction costs, availability of trades, authority that, you know, a schmozzle up there, Melbourne Water in particular. Now we've got DECA and Council, and one project, or one stage of a project in Little Springs in particular, we're waiting 2.5 years for approval for Melbourne Water. Without going into the detail, we've got Melbourne Water, DECA and Council, all with...
What's DECA, Patrick?
Department of environment, energy, yeah,
Trees.
and climate change, yeah.
Trees, waters, frogs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, okay, I'll just go quickly. In these areas, we're building big wetlands for Melbourne water, right? Because the water that comes from development, it's got to be treated before it gets drained into the creeks. Okay, Melbourne water, their objective is to get the biggest possible so that we can treat it properly before it drains into the water. DECA, on the other hand, in the conservation zone, wants the smallest footprint possible because they're worried about the environment, endangered species, native grasses. And council, their objective is to get an asset that they can maintain, which means they can drive their truck around, the fall of the lands can't be too steep, and they've got to have plenty of room to drive their trucks around to maintain that asset. We've got 3 authorities here that we have to seek approval that have got different objectives, and there's no overarching authority that say, okay, this is what we have to do, we have to deliver land, this is what you guys have to do to compromise. No, there isn't. It's up to us as the developer to convince all 3 of them with different objectives to meet our goal to develop this. Therein lies a big issue. The government now has shifted their focus from outer area development to inner city development, as you well know, and with very good reasons, because infrastructure is there, so all of a sudden we now have medium density development that's available to be developed in all the activity centres in inner Melbourne. But we all know that it's not going to happen because construction cost is way too high. Michael said we shelved a few projects. We actually technically haven't shelved projects.
No,
We've
no
just-
way, how's that?
Yeah, there's a lot of work behind the scene in looking for alternative, retendering, changing design to try to get there. This is what we do. I mean, we manage projects to make sure that in the end when we deliver it, it works, right? So even though it may be shelved in your eyes, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scene. One of the projects that's been sitting there for a long time is Afton Street. We've gone to tender 6 times.
Yeah,
we were talking about it. Tendered 6 times, and now it's only just working. We've had to cut the design a little bit and change it a little bit. But these are the kind of things that's happening. Medium density housing, high-rise apartment, in general terms, are not working because construction costs are too high. Unless it's social housing or a niche market like Frankston, where you've got a specific buyer market. Generally, it's not working. So they're shifting their attention to the inner city housing to deliver the housing that we need, which is, if you remember, 80,000 dwellings a year for the next 5-10 years. That's not happening. So what's going to happen at the moment, construction costs in the outer area, growth area, a plot of land plus a new house is here. You can buy existing dwelling there cheaper, and that's what people are doing, apart from the fact that interest rates are probably a little bit too high. Guess what will happen? Construction costs are not going to come down. Your current established home prices are there. What do you think will happen? Because this is not going to move. And that's an anomalous situation that doesn't naturally occur, right? So I won't put words in your mouth. You guys, I've spoken to a lot of you. I think you guys are very savvy. You are in the market. You know what's happening. Interest rates are about to come down. I mean, I'm like everyone else. If the price doesn't move, I'll sit on my hands because I know that nothing's going to happen. Why am I committing myself to borrowing money? But as soon as it starts moving, I'm interested. And I think that's what Michael and Andrew's talking about. It is happening now. It's been a really difficult 2-3 years, but in my view, and his personal view, it is happening.
And the market is moving. The market is moving. So as we go through, we'll talk about the challenges, but we'll also talk about the opportunities that are available to you moving forward. Now, the first project, what we're going to do is talk about the land projects to start with. And the first project, we had what we do now is moving forward. As projects are coming close to our investors having the ability to get their money out, we have an in-depth meeting. We did last week. We spent 2 hours on this one. But what's important to understand that close to 10 years ago, we started investing in a parcel of land that was just farmland. So what you can see here is there's probably, 150 houses already built. right? That's the
stage 1 and stage 2.
yeah. If you look at all the infrastructure that's sort of happening, stage 5 and 6, which are settling now, which our investors have the opportunity to come out of now if they choose to do so, is also titled. There's some of the works that Patrick was talking about down here for Melbourne Water. Yeah, it's a significant investment happening along there. So yeah, a 450 lot subdivision that should have been finished 2 or 3 years ago will be finished by the end of next year. Every investor in that space is coming out not only with their capital. Now this is important. Most investors, when they invest in something, what is their biggest fear, guys? Losing capital. We had experts standing up here before saying, I can't control it up and down and sideways, etc. I'm a control freak. Now, being a control freak, I know that if I invest in the safest commodity that I believe is the safest commodity, can anyone tell me a safer commodity than land? By starting at that point, our capital's protected, isn't it? Now, in a time when the last 3 or 4 years, the development world and building world has been Armageddon. Have you seen a tougher time ever, Anthony? It's been Armageddon. Investors are still coming out with profit. I think it might be ranging from 60 to 80% profit based on how long they've been in, but still, people are still coming out with profit. If this doesn't stand the test of time, if this doesn't give you the confidence that this sort of investment is the safest, what we haven't been able to do is control the external forces, which may mean it's taken longer. That's the one thing that you'll notice whenever we're talking about projects for the last 3 or 4 years, they have generally taken longer. But what we now see with the team that's been built, with all the projects coming forward, the good news is in this report, I'm going to be talking about a lot of projects that are going forward. I'm going to be talking about a lot of projects that investors have already had their return in a time when the market was scary, right? So that's really important. So Little Springs, do I press the button? I probably do, right? So basically 1 and 2, 4, 5 and 6, you notice that we've taken the approach of doing multiple stages at once. We're doing 6 to 10 now, aren't we, Patrick? Yep. To sort of get things out. Investors have had the choice of taking a lot in stage 5 and 6, and they can basically do that in the next 3 months or so. Those that are waiting for profit will wait till the end of the project, and that's scheduled, I'm told, around about the end of next year, right, Patrick? Yeah. So, you know, when you start investing in something that's a farm, the biggest fear is it going to come out? Well, you can see it happening, guys. And our investors are making a profit in a time when most people were losing money. So as you can see, 5 and 6 coming out shortly. 4, which was supposed to be before 5 and 6, because of this Melbourne water issue, has had to move to stay to the end. Now, our biggest challenge has been, and Terry's been selling for us, we've had properties when the market was really hot. We were selling, 10 lots a week, 15 lots a week. We had heaps of pre-sales up and running. All of a sudden, this Melbourne water situation, which has taken longer, we've had situations where, the time has come and we've either moved retail buyers back, or the first retail buyers are gone because they take their fear is said, oh, the market's moving, maybe I can get something cheaper, I'm going to have to resell it again. Now these are challenges that we deal with, but the most important thing is the asset is there, people are titling their blocks, or when the project finishes they're getting their profits. So in the worst time, here's an example of the end is in sight. Here's an example of people can actually get their money back in the next quarter, 2-3 weeks, grab a block and take advantage of the market going up. Charlemont, this is another greenfield project out near Geelong. Now we look at it, again, that's a situation where you may or may not remember, Patrick, I think we had a situation where the PSP had the infrastructure coming off the main road, right? Water and all that sort of stuff and tapping into stuff.
Well, that was the original, now that
They've made changes.
Yeah, things have changed, correct.
Things have changed, which means the water and the infrastructure has to come from the back. I know that this plan changed quite a bit at the top here to make sure that the roads match up. But the good news is we're actually getting there, right? They've been back and forth to council, Anthony, so many times, correct?
Yeah, we submitted the plan application last week for the resi.
right? So things are happening and moving in a time when Terry, Geelong's coming back. Geelong was the highest growth period, and then when the market softened and people realised post-COVID, Geelong had a lot of properties or blocks of land on the market, right?
It's probably one of the hardest hit regions in, as far as regional, although they don't consider Geelong as regional anymore.
Yep.
But yeah, one of the hardest hit as far as sales rates and price decreases.
Yeah, and now it's basically starting to come back. So by the time this is ready to go, and by the time we actually release lots, the market should be back up.
Yep.
And more importantly, we're still at, what are they, over $1,000 a square metre?
Yep.
1,100 or something?
Something like that.
1,000 to 1,100 bucks a square metre, which still means our investors are in profit region. Hopefully the next 3 or 4 years are kind to us. You know, if we're talking project timeline, everything going to plan with the utilities and the water, etc., you know, around about 28, next 2 or 3 years is going to be kind to us from a market point of view. So all looking good in Charlemont, except for this one was originally scheduled for quicker time.
The issue with land development as opposed to a built form you've got a defined boundary and you know what's in there, what needs to be built. All the services are brought to your built form. Land subdivision is not. You need to deal with the neighbour at the top, neighbour on the south, this one is a roadway. So you need to get your neighbour on board. You need to understand their timelines because your drains may well require access from their land, or the water might require, you know, you to drain onto someone else's land. So it's a little bit more complex, and a lot of times we're actually negotiating with neighbours other than authority. So when you look at this, a simple development like this, and you look at the timeline, if you know you're wondering why is it taking so long, it's because of that. All the other external influences that come into play.
And conversely, built form projects, when we look at our investors, for example, we give you a timeline, we give you a return for a certain period of time, and it tends to suit people who like a little bit of certainty. The benefit of greenfielding is your capital is secure, and the potential of uplift could be greater in an up market. Whereas other built form projects, they've got a defined return for a defined period of time. Next one is Marshall. This one here, the precinct structure plan should have been converted by now.
Yeah.
And the council hasn't yet, right?
It's coming.
However, the benefit of this project, again, it's walking distance to a train station. Those investors in this project, I think, will see the benefit of this one. Smaller, medium density type lots coming. So, you know, if it's going to be, they're talking about gazetting it soon.
And this year, yeah.
Now, what happens when a land gets rezoned from rural to residential? What happens to its value, guys? And traditionally it's been anywhere from, I think Reza did some research the other time, what was it, 2 to 5 times or something? Right, so if you, historically we had someone do the research, 2 to 5 times. So this one here is taking a little bit longer than what we anticipated, but the return is actually looking pretty good. Brook, this one was affected by the government's choice to not convert the land and go back to inner city type developments. This PSP was supposed to be converted by now, wasn't it, Patrick?
Close.
Close to me, if not. Now, where is it? Western border. This is the next area where, if you look at the highest, historically the highest growth corridor in Melbourne, it was that Western corridor, wasn't it? Yeah. Right, and that's where most of the sales were happening, wasn't it, Terry? Right. This now is Brook. There's a major town centre coming within half a kilometre of this. Now, when this land that's available for sale at the moment runs out, now Terry, we don't have a crystal ball, but if we look at the estates available for sale in that area, when the market returns to normality, how many years of land do you reckon there's left there? I know I'm catching you at a hot, but yeah.
Hard to say because it all depends on what's happening.
Correct. What I'm trying to say is, unless they release this PSP, there's going to be a huge demand.
Well, it's, you know, if we keep going back historically and what we're looking at, you know, moving forward with the amount of shortage we've got, I don't think they'll be able to release enough land, in all honesty.
And this is in the next Western corridor. So a little bit more time. Now, let's look at the exit strategy here. You know, we were hoping for this thing to be earlier. But what happens to raw land? Every day it sits there, the closer it gets to conversion date. It's increasing in value. Right? I just got told, was it recently, where's Dill? $1 million an acre. Recently there was a sale there for 100 acres, wasn't it? right, which was significant, and that was basically in that pocket. So the value of that land is increasing. So those that have investments there, and I know most people in there are looking for long-term investments or superannuation or something like that, your capital is increasing in value. And there are going to be multiple exit strategies. You know, it might come a time when the value is so great that we can't say no and investors get their return, or we wait and develop it.
One thing you probably wouldn't know is that this is part of the larger Brook precinct, and all the land around us are owned by developers. And one of the bigger developers, ID Land, they own about 5 times the size of what we've got there. They're not going to sit on their hands. They will be agitating as well, you know. And we hopefully will be able to just write with them because it is not just us being affected by this change in focus in the PSP. So we are waiting. We are obviously managing, but we're also keeping an eye on what's happening with the larger Brook community.
And with raw land, the closer it gets to development time, the value, as we keep saying, keeps increasing.
Parwan was one where we just were lucky enough to buy a site that was future industrial, etc. Some of you were lucky enough to get involved in that when we were looking for an opportunity for our investors. I think we bought 200 acres at $65,000 an acre and is already on sold for $115,000 an acre. And I think it's next year or sometime next year the investors are getting their 17% return for something that's already been pre-sold. Diamond Creek, this one sat for a while. Guess what? Everything's happening now. If you go on site, you've got your tractors and whatever they use. You go on site, there's a display suite for selling. We've got a certain amount of sales, upwards of about 10, 15, something out of a 50-lot subdivision. All happening now. We expect to finish construction the first quarter of next year. And at the end of the day, pending sales, everyone gets paid out in their timeframes. So that's the estate, Emerald Views estate. There's a what do you call it, a mock-up?
Render.
A render, thank you. A render of what it's going to look like. You drive out there, someone's selling at the moment. That one for a while because, you know, the market wasn't right and we couldn't get the works happening. I didn't say stalled for a while. It was sitting. And so the good news for investors though, I've spoken to every single one of you, everyone keeps getting 17% per annum until the project's finished. Anyone got a problem with continuing to get, you know, you're laughing because you're one of them. You got a problem with getting 17% per annum until the project finishes? No. Right? And that's the benefit of actually being involved with something where you know what your return is until where your money comes back. Central Parkway, this is a project that we, for a while, those investors in it may remember initially we were going to have a childcare centre, we were going to do some shops and some commercial upstairs and some townhouses at the rear. COVID hits. Building prices significantly increase. We have an issue with the childcare. We're one directly behind it, and we sort of said we've got to find a solution. Well, the solution came in the form of working with one of our early investors and close allies, Raj. Where's Raj? Put your hand up, Raj. There he is, Indie Lifestyle. Basically, Raj and us, we're putting together an NDIS homes project. We had a wholesale opportunity where we had 3 of our early investors come on in. I think the initial investment was $550 and they get 6% on their money till it's built. We've got another 3 that are pre-sold. I think we're 2 or 3 retail sales. $719,000 gets you an NDIS home that rents for $47 guaranteed. Numbers work. I'm not a big advocate of residential because of yields, etc. Now we've got to change with the trends. But this one now has been enabled us to go ahead and not only do the NDIS, which is the rear of this project here, but I'll go back. We've also found a scheme for the front where, yes, we've got some shops downstairs. Next door, we've got a concept for a gym, 1,300 square metres, isn't it, Reza?
1,200.
1,200 square metre, already interest to lease it. So
that's 130.
130 and 120. So they'll base together basically at the end of the day, a whole parcel of land coming in here, all the way across there. So we'll have a gym across here, we'll have some shops at the front here. Upstairs we're looking for wellness, things like chiropractors, yoga, things that will work well with the gym, and this is where the NDIS homes have come at the back. So we're able to make the numbers work. Construction, I understand, is starting in the next quarter of this year, yeah? Yep, so that's, I mean, builders are signed off, everything's ready to go. Investors in there, if you're either getting your 9% or 8% regular, will continue to get that through. And then basically when it's finished, your investors will keep the NDIS. Aberfeldie, this is the one that Patrick was talking about. I mean, we were sitting there for a long time because the numbers just didn't work. Cost of construction, we had builders who were basically keeping margins in there to make sure they don't have issues, etc. And we just couldn't make the numbers work. Plus, the market at the time, everyone was saying the general real estate market was down, so the prices for sale weren't justifying the build. We had already announced for a long, long time, if we weren't going to do this project, our investors would have still got their return, etc. But now we've found a solution. So I understand the builders are very close to being signed off. They're starting to look at works probably again within the next quarter. The other good news is the local market is starting to go crazy. There's an example of something similar, selling for 2 to 2.4 million. I've spoken to the agent who's handling the pre-sales there. Already there are being 2 sold in that 2 million plus. The numbers now start to work. Now for our investors, there were 1 or 2 that for one reason or another couldn't wait. We just got someone to replace them at 17% per annum. They basically will get their interest at the end of the project. There's always solution if someone can't fit in timelines. And this is a really good example of a project that took a while to get there, but at the end of the day now, when construction starts, 12 to 18 month construction period, by that stage, we're not going to be forced for pre-sales, but the product and the dollars are right. So here's a project that maybe 2 years ago, we couldn't make work, right? Than now that we can make work. So getting back to that scenario that I spoke about, patience.
Yeah, even though construction costs are still high, at least it's stabilized. So in terms of risk, it's a lot thinner now. Builders don't have to build in that level of risk when prices were all over the place. So, there's a little bit more certainty now.
Yeah, and we've been able to lock in. There have been multiple builders able to do this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Patrick's pet. Because, everyone knows what I think about apartments as an investment because they've only been investment grade stock on the market for years, being sold to investors that haven't seen capital growth. But this project here, when we talk about Frankston, I'm going to let you go on because I know how buoyant you are. I'm buoyant about the fact that the peninsula has a shortage of downsizing stock. And the people who are buying apartments in Frankston, when you look at 2 recent projects called Horizon, 96% owner occupied, sold within 6 months. There's another one at the moment on the water near us for sale by the same developer. They're at 60% pre-sales in less than 6 months. And the average selling prices are through the roof because that downsizer market on the peninsula wants to live across the road from the water. And this is Patrick's pet. I initially was a bit about apartments, but when we saw it, it makes sense.
This is where, when we talk about the niche market, that's a niche market. And this is niche only because it's got views of the bay. There are no high-rise between Frankston all the way to Port Melbourne and some in St Kilda. But right on or close to the waterfront, this is the only one. And what's more, it's on the gateway to the Mornington Peninsula. And all of you know how wealthy that Mornington Peninsula is. This proposal took a long time to convert because there was a council that were originally anti-development. There's a very strong residents' action group in the area called Long Island Residents' Action Group, but that has changed. The council is now pro-development. This whole zone area here, that's about I think 1.5 hectares of land on that strip. I don't know whether there's a floor plan, Michael.
There's not.
Okay. That, as Michael said, there's harbour development, there's Pace development, and then there's another lot that's available for another development and ourselves. There are only probably 4 developments there that are able to get up to 12, 14 stories. It's niche because Frankston is looking at bringing their city grid all the way up to here, where the creek is, and this is going to be their image, a food and beverage centre. It'll be a destination centre in all of Frankston and probably the Mornington Peninsula. The other good thing about it is now it's officially gazetted as the activity centre. Thereby, if we were going to do anything else or the next development, they don't have third-party objections anymore. So the strong Long Island residents group now have now been the ability to object number 7. So things will happen. Frankston, $67 million on a new train station done. $1.1 billion in renovation to the existing hospital will be completed this year. TAFE, $67 million, stage 2, being done now. Shopping centre, $65 million done. It is raring to go. That whole place is raring to go. And we look at the bars here, and we've got proof of concept in Harbour. The downsizers are over 60s are the majority buyer from the region. What they're looking for? They're looking for what they used to, the access to the beach, view lines to the bay, access to the train line to Melbourne, access to a regional sized hospital. It's all there. Frankston is on the cusp of really taking off. That area there will go first, obviously, the private development there.
And the people who were lucky enough to get on board as seed investors, I think they were getting 17% per annum, and they're due to get their return, the ability to return on the investment at the end of this year to mid next year, depending on when they're coming in. It's being commercialised. They've done all the hard work, they've got their permits, we're ready for pre-sales, etc. When a project gets commercialised, initial investors get the opportunity, cash out, do something else, or there's a limited opportunity to be involved in the project as well, which I'll be talking about to the individual investors on that one. So this is a good news story for everybody. Sunbury Commercial, you may remember that we got some land out in Sunbury, and we gave a limited opportunity, I think, to 11 of our investors to come in and get their shops at wholesale. What we basically found in that area, that region is having the same issues with water and drainage, etc. But everyone involved in that project was getting a regular return. I think their initial investment was 500 or 550 or something to get the rights to a shop, and then they're getting regular 5 or 6% income till it's built. Everyone was aware that we need to wait for Henley, who's got a whole building estate, whole housing estate next door. So nothing changes until Henley. So the delays of Melbourne Water basically means that we won't build this until the right time happens. But as far as our investors are concerned, they're still getting their income of 6%, and that's what they were hoping to get when they rent it out anyway. So this is a win for investors, except we can't see something yet because we were reliant on, and still are. There's no point in building shops if the houses aren't happening next door. But from our investors' point of view, they locked in the potential of having that shop. They own that shop when it's finished. In the meantime, they're getting a really good income. Heather Grove, this is one where we found the site, put together a concept drawing for childcare, supermarket, some shops, and gave our investors the opportunity to come in and, same like Sunbury, secure a shop at a wholesale level. If you look at it, I think we have, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 shops earmarked. We have the potential, I think, of about 10 of them to go, and we're nearly out. We've only got a couple left. So, if you're wanting the opportunity to get involved in getting a wholesale shop, this is the right sort of project. The guys are going through all the pre-applications and getting council on board now. Where do we look like? February, so permit should be submitted in Q2, so the permit's about to go in?
Yeah, next month or so.
Okay, so basically next month or so. And here's an example where, as an investor, you can lock in a core asset for future benefit of a return. In the meanwhile, while your money is invested in the project, you're getting a 6% return on your money. Patrick?
Yeah, I was going to say there was a period where the suburban shopping centres were on the wane. The demand wasn't there, but COVID has fundamentally changed our spending habits. A lot of people are working regionally now, working from home, walking to shops, because they're working close to where the shops are. And these ones are very much viable. In fact, they're more than viable, they're actually in demand.
Well, every investor I meet to look at this concept, I just challenge them, go to a growth area of Melbourne, drive around, look for, there's usually what we call little shops or neighbourhood activity shops within no more than 20 minutes walk of residents. Go around those areas and try and find me a vacant shop. Right? They make an awesome investment. Rockbank 120. Now, we had investors in this project. If you remember, this was the site that had the opportunity to get permits for a childcare centre and then also do some more development on the back. The childcare centre permit is We're about to construct shortly, so the permits come through.
Yeah, in the next month.
Okay, so the permit's about to go through. We're about to start constructing on that one. Investors there had the opportunity of getting their 17% per annum when it got commercialised. All of them are staying until the end of next year, I think, and they keep getting 17% per annum on their money. And I think we bought that site for $700 a square metre near the train station. It's paid for itself. Monument, local town centre. This is a lot of work gone in with Patrick, Anthony and Adela and the team. Again, this is a concept where initially there was a certain just concept drawing put together. When we purchased this, investors coming in at 17% per annum. It's about to be commercialised now. We could get the permit it's almost happening.
Well, it's with council at the
It's
moment.
with council. I know we've got expressions of interest. We've got Colliers on this. Aldi, KFC, there's a childcare centre above here, large gym. There's plenty of opportunity to rent it out, but there's also the opportunity here where the value of the land continues. Yeah, as late as yesterday, I'm hearing that there's people sort of knocking on the door thinking about what's it worth, do I want to buy it, etc. But the opportunity is here for investors to get their 17% until it's commercialised. I think it's 3 to 4 years, 17% is a pretty good day. Lifestyle Activity Centre in Beveridge, you'll notice that we do childcare. Now, most of everyone knows that we de-risk our projects by getting childcare involved because we also have a company that runs childcare centres. Patrick sort of and Dill initiated the idea on our first one in Mernda, which we'll talk about shortly. But here's an opportunity to put together early learning, maybe swim school, medical, gym, etc., and still have land at the back for residential. I think we bought the site for sub $500 a square metre. Residential in the area is selling for $1,000 a square metre. So investors are getting their 15% per annum on this one here. And when you look at it, there's applications going through, permits looking like 2025, and we expect to get the ELC operated by the start of 28. So as you see, every site that we buy, Patrick and Dill already work out in their brain what we can do with this before we buy it. It's not just a case of trying to make something up.
ELC, the early learning centres that we decided to get into, we knew that
Coming up now.
yeah, because there is government support, both of the government supportive of ELC. There's obviously growing workforce and the women going to the workforce, which is what we need. And then the subsidies, in fact, are actually increasing, so that these things are getting more and more profitable. But what is done is open up the floodgate. Just about every council has got multiple application for ELCs. And some of them will not happen, and some of them will run badly, and that's why we decided when we started to actually operate them as well. We want to make sure that we have a high level of operational viability when we develop these sites. So our next phase now is to actually start branding our name IM Learning, because we're doing a lot more. We're staffing them with higher staff numbers, we're paying our staff a little bit more, and our children from the survey and the parents seem to be a lot happier. We are converting a lot of these walk-throughs into sign-ups due to our manager, Vicky Daniels, who has actually been in the childcare industry for yonks.
Well, they're the existing ones that are running, and I'm told and I see firsthand that they are the best in those regions, which in turn keeps them positive. You know, I had a childcare expert come and have a look at one of our centres, and she sort of loves the way we're doing it. We've got people now asking us, can we support them in sourcing centre sites or getting involved, etc. It's an area that is really starting to work well, but be careful. As a Doncaster resident, drive down Doncaster Road, drive down Manningham Road, every corner someone is paying too much for the land, someone is then paying too much for the build, and I don't know whether they've done the numbers, but there's not enough numbers of kids to justify the amount of money that's being spent. So the research needs to be done before you buy any site.
A lot of them will fall by the wayside as we progress over the next decade or so, because there's still a lot more room for these centres. But stay tuned now, we're going to start a branding campaign.
So, another one opened up just in Little Springs recently, and this is what sort of makes it unique, the concept of the way they're designed. I think the I Am brand and board was your idea, Patrick. which inspires people to, you might want to give a quick story about that.
Look, I am is about, the value of the child, right? Or all of us, in fact. But for the child, it's about I am and I could be different. I'm different, or I am scared, or I'm happy, or I am whatever. The child should actually be able to express how they feel when they come to this sentence.
I am strong, I am kind,
exactly, yeah.
I am silly, that's me.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that really to bring up the child in all of us, but starting with the ELCs, they come in there and they have the confidence and the independence to say, look, I'm actually very shy, That's okay. No big deal, because we are in all of that.
Now, there's another one that's been branded in that Charlemont area, which we saw about that project. So they've put through, all the work's being done behind the scenes. We expect that to have that up and running. And the investors in that are continuing to get their 8% per annum until the shop is built. Until the childcare centre is built and commercialised. We spoke about Indie Lifestyle in Cranbourne West before. Some of you took the opportunity to get 8.15 while these homes were being built. The first 2 homes for Indie Lifestyle in Little Springs, under construction now. I know that Raj is interviewing potential residents, etc. as it is, and his model's simple. You don't just quote numbers that are maybe potential, you look for fact. And he's looking for 2 long-term residents on the right sort of money. So whenever we do an indie project, example, Cranbourne West, he's providing a guarantee of lease starting at $47,000 a year net. He'll pay the outgoings. We can apply for land tax exemption being NDIS. So that's the type of residential that makes sense to me. Residential that gives you a greater yield than the old-fashioned 3 or 4% gross. And then you've got to pay the rates, taxes. Thank you, Mr. Andrews and his land tax, etc. These sort of investments make sense. So we've, since the last time that we met, we've also acquired a site out in the outer north, in Donnybrook, I think, from memory, and pretty much high level, working with, where's Pranil and Cirilla? You here somewhere? Put your hand up in the middle there. Look for the Fedora cap after this event if you want to come and ask about this project. But again, we bought this site for roughly $500 a square metre. I'm already told that it's worth 70% more. High level, we can get a childcare centre. High level, yes, there would be a gym concept. High level, 1,500 square metres of retail. We're just opening the opportunity to invest in this project, 15% per annum, 4 years. Come and talk to us later. This is, again, a no-brainer. It's about 3,000 square metres of developable area. And those of you who are, like Pranil, invested with us and want to talk about the future of doing partnerships, that's the other thing that we announced, in the last year. We can do community relationships or partnerships with you and your community as well. Now that's a question for you. That question for you is, you come along today, some of you are just saying, I want to know what's happening with my project. Cool. Review it. If you haven't had the opportunity to sit down, where's Peter? Peter, stand up. Mr. Clarity, confidence, and etc. Peter will sit down now. I see multiple. Put your hand up if you've recently had a session with Pete to do a vision board, to get your numbers, to understand. Out of those with their hands up, is there anybody that didn't walk out without knowing what's next? At minimum. If you don't mind me using your name, Pete, that's the one thing you said to me. My life changed when I sat down with Peter. My investments changed when I sat down with Peter. What's next for you after today? The people that I'd like to implore are the people that actually aren't here, or the people that have just had one dabble. Oh, let's see what happens with that, and then let's see what happens. Guys, if you're on the fence, get off the fence and act one way or another. Not everything is going to go 100% the way you want it. Good example, we spoke to 100 odd investors out of Little Springs the other day. It went longer than what they wanted. But the minute we're able to hopefully give them clarity, create another plan, give them opportunities to come in at 15% there, 8% there, most people, when they invest successfully, what do they then continue to do? Suggestion I'm going to give you though, if you've made one investment and waiting for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to see what happens next, it's a mistake. Start to plan your future today. What's next is up to you. I know that there are multiple people that have been affected by a delay here or there. Peter's been able to sit down with them. What about if we talk about that being invested at 8% to help you get some income? Or what about if we shift that? There are 1 or 2 investors that we've had to support. You know, oh, well, you need some money for that reason. Great, let's get someone to replace you and you can have your capital there. We want to help each and every one of you get to your goals. If you get caught up in negativity or fear and don't take the next step to find solutions to your problems, how do I implore you not to do that? So what's real important from our point of view, as I said when I started, and it's in the back of your little folders there, you know, you guys are the foundation of what we do. There are times that I don't mind being totally transparent. We are doing Aberfeldie wholly and solely and purely to give our investors their money. We aren't making any money out of it. It's okay, right? It's part of a process, the ups and the downs. Patrick announced to all our Little Springs investors last week, we aren't getting any profit. We had a certain amount of, he had 6 blocks, I had 6 blocks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it didn't go the way we wanted. We're going to deliver for our investors because you're just now seeing also the future is bright. What's coming next can be totally beneficial for this next plane ride that we're all on. So to use a pun, if you haven't got your ticket yet, get your ticket, get on board, but get on board by having a plan. Go and see Pete. Pete will help you with that plan. And then, if any of the things that we are currently doing or doing in future benefit you, then we'll look for that opportunity. We've also recently introduced a buyer's advocacy team. Anyone who's thinking about property, we will advocate on your behalf. You know someone who needs to buy, needs to sell. Right? Peter will basically make sure that the plan works for them. Then you need an agent, we'll source the right one in the right area to get you the right price. You want to buy something, first home, help your kids, do whatever, we'll basically find the right property for you, save you time, effort and energy. Anything to do with property will support you. You know that we've got a finance arm. I also know, there are some finance brokers in the room that work with us as well. We'll help you through the whole process. We just want to be the one that whenever you think property or investment, we're there as a starting point. We'll put you then in touch with the right specialists, insurance, financial planners. John's in the room, Mari's in the room, the right brokers, etc. But guess what? It starts with you. You guys have got to become the CEOs of your life. You guys have got to take charge. Who said to me before, I just spoke to my accountant, I didn't like him, well, what Peter said or what you guys said, I fired him. Fire the people that don't work right for you, all right? Find the right types of people. If we're the right type of people, we'll like to support you. But one promise I do give you, give me a problem, I'll do my best to give you a solution, but before you walk out the door, I'm going to ask you to act. So, for today, thank you for coming. Before we finish up, I've got a couple of thank yous. Felicity, who works tirelessly on everything that we do and probably doesn't get the recognition and credit she deserves. Everyone give her a clap. The rest of our team, our project management team, etc., thank you so much. And what I'm going to do is something that's a little bit extraordinary. You have to bear with me. Where's my sister Mary? Apart from sort of being the one that keeps us online and in track, come on. She's 1 year younger today. And you know why I probably forgot it was her birthday, Felicity? Because we had 17th on the presentation, it's actually the 18th.
Oh, it's the disclaimer school does
Yeah.
I made it before today.
Yes. So I'm going to call up Mary, and we're going to do something to embarrass the hell out of her.
Oh.
Come on. I'm allowed to. I'm big brother. I think we have a cake somewhere. I think we have a cake, but until the cake comes out, how about we do the traditional thing? What do Aussies do? Sing a song, don't we? One. Who wants to start off? Pete, you're usually good at starting the singing. One. So usually good at starting the singing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Mary. Happy birthday to you. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! I'm told there's a cake coming, some candle to blow out.
I got caught up with the lunches, I think.
Oh, there it is. Well, okay, we'll have a candle, etc. Hang around, guys. Anyone got any questions, queries, come and see us. We're here for another half an hour or so. I hope you enjoyed the event. Thank you for attending.